Are you looking to get into raising rabbits and you're wondering, what do I do with all the waste that comes off of them? How do I handle that? I'm going to go through some ideas with you today and get that all cleared up for you. Hey guys, welcome back to another Slightly Redneck video. Again, my name is Chris. If you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your deck, your balcony, your garage, or heck, even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to go about it. Today we're talking about rabbits and specifically how to deal with the rabbit waste, the manure, the urine, those things. They produce a lot of it. So what do you do with it? Well, first things first, it's best if you can keep the manure and the urine separate. If the manure is kept separate from the urine, it really doesn't have too bad of an odor, so it's much easier to deal with that way. If you let the two mix together, then you're going to start dealing with it smells pretty bad when it's wet, those kinds of things. So it's best to be able to keep those separate. Let me pull you in close here. I'll show you my system here, what I do and how I keep those two separate. Okay, hopefully you can kind of see this. I've got some tarps strung up underneath the cages, and I'll bring you in close to look at it, but I'm afraid that it's not going to make sense if I don't show it to you from out here. So it's just strung up underneath the cage, and it kind of tilts down to this end, and then I've got a big Rubbermaid tub down here that catches everything. So get up here close and show you. This is a grow out pin that I just butchered, so there's nothing left in it. But you can see there's still quite a bit, I don't know how much this is showing up on camera, but quite a bit of manure kept in the tarp. But it's all, for the most part, pretty dry, because if we look down here in the bucket, or the tub down here, that's where all the urine goes. So whenever they urinate into the tarps here, it all just runs down into this bucket here, and I catch it all and then I just go dump it out. And as far as where I dump it, you can dump it pretty much anywhere. It's not going to hurt anything. I just take it out in the field and dump it out there. You can do it along a fence row, along, wherever. It really doesn't hurt anything. Great for a compost pile. If you've got a compost pile that's a little bit cold and you heat it up, dump this stuff on there and it'll get it going real quick. So it's great for that. That's the first thing I'm going to do with cleaning this out. And I'm going to show you how I clean out the tarps here in just a second. But let me go dump this bucket here real quick, and then we'll come back and I'll get the tarps dumped out and show you how I deal with that. All right, I'm not so sure how well this is going to show up on film here. I'm going to try my best, but what I do is just keep an old shovel handle right here. This happens to be the one I use for dispatching, which I broke the other day dispatching some rabbits, but it still works for this purpose. Move this out of the way so you can kind of see. And all I do is just run it underneath the tarp. Just stick it underneath here, push it, and all the rabbit manure just rolls down into this bucket. Let me move this tub a little bit, because there we go. So I just kind of work my way back. And it'll take me a few minutes to get this all cleared out, but really not too bad. I've let it go longer than I normally do, so there's more in there than normal. And there we go. That side is cleaned out. And pull the bucket out here so you can see what we got going on. All right, so there's a nice big tub of rabbit manure, some matted hair in there and that kind of stuff. A little bit of hay, but not much feed waste or anything like that. Okay, so I've got a big bucket full of rabbit manure here. What am I going to do with that? Well, there's several things that you could do with that. If you're a gardener, you've got house plants, you've got potted plants, any kind of plants that you've got, this is a fantastic fertilizer. It's a cold manure, which means it does not have to be composted first, like chicken manure, most poultry manures, horses, cows, all those things need to be composted first so they'll burn your plants. Rabbit manure will not. You can throw it straight on your garden, straight into your potted plants. Might cover it up with a little bit of dirt so people don't come by and look at it and think you're crazy. But it works fantastic for fertilizing your plants. It's pretty much the only fertilizer I use on my garden. I throw down a row of rabbit manure, throw some compost over it, plant right into it, and the plants do great all year long. If you don't have a garden or you don't have a place where you want to use the manure, you could throw it into a compost pile. It's a great way to get a compost pile cooking. If you've got a lot of carbon-rich material like dead leaves, straw, shredded up cardboard, newspaper, some of those kinds of things, you mix that in with your rabbit manure and stir that up real good, and it'll make a great compost pile for you that you could use later. You could, of course, just throw it in the trash, just put it in some kind of sealed containers or bags or feed sacks or whatever, and just throw it in a trash can and let the trash company come and get it. Or you can actually post an ad on Craigslist and say free rabbit manure, and you'd be surprised at the number of people that are going to show up wanting that rabbit manure because they've got gardens, they've got potted plants, those kinds of things, and they know just how great of a fertilizer it is. That brings me to one more point. It's not a bad idea to dry this stuff out a little bit, clean it up a little bit, make sure there's no big chunks of hair, big chunks of hay, that kind of stuff in there, and lay it out on a screen, let it dry out, bag it up in feed sacks, and then post it on Craigslist for sale. And you can usually, around here anyway, can usually sell a bag, big feed, 50-gallon feed sack or 50-pound feed sack full of rabbit manure for about $10. People will pay that on a pretty regular basis. And it helps offset the cost of feeding your rabbits. So there's a couple of ways that you can deal with the rabbit manure. Again, as long as you keep it dry, keep it separate from the urine, there's really not much of an odor to it at all. So storing it up is not that big of a deal, but I do encourage you, if you're going to put it in feed sacks and you're going to store it that way, lay it out, let it dry up first, because if you just pile it in there while it's still kind of damp, it's going to rot out your feed sacks. You're going to have a big mess on your hands later on. So always make sure that you dry it out first. And that's easy enough to do. Just, like I said, just get some kind of screened, put a piece of screen, staple it to a 2x4 frame or whatever, and lay it out. Dump your rabbit manure out on that, and just let it sit overnight or all day long as there's no rain, and it's going to be dry by the time you get done with that. All right, so there's a couple ideas on how to deal with your rabbit waste. Leave me a comment below. Let me know, is there something else that you do? Did I forget something, or did I, maybe miss a step somewhere along the way? Hopefully this video helps you out, gives you a little bit of idea on how you might be able to deal with your rabbit waste. I know there's plenty of people that do things a little bit differently. This is just the way I do things. It works well for me, but hey, let me know what you're doing, because I like to learn from you guys just as much as you like to learn from me. And if you don't do this on a regular basis, read those comments down below. You'd be surprised the number of people that come in with some great ideas and some great tips, and share it with the rest of you guys. You'll learn just as much from those comments as you do probably from watching this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, God bless.